Hello and welcome to Kicking Tires. My name is Jimmy.
And I'm Justin.
And today we got some. Actually, you know what? We don't have that much electrical vehicle news today. And I'm happy about that because the first car we got is an Alfa Romeo. I don't know about
All
you.
about the passion.
the passion, the soul. I love Alphas. My love for Alphas began back in the 156, but this is a very different vehicle than that. But I'll let you explain.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Giulia GTA. So this is one up from the Quadrifoglio, which we do get here. I don't think we will get this GTA here. The GTA, so it's the GTA and the GTA M. There's going to be 500 units, and that's going to be split between both models. So it's going to be a mix of both, and we'll talk about what the differences are between those two models. But the big thing here is the GTA loosely translate to the light version of the GT. So this is going to be priced around 175,000 euro. So it's not a cheap car. This is supercar territory. Lambo Huracan entry level money. This is like more than most 911s. So it's definitely not cheap. But the big thing here is an additional 100 kilograms of weight reduction. So that's huge. Especially on a sedan like that.
I'm just gonna interrupt you. 175k euros, just to put it in Canadian dollars, is 256,000 Canadian dollars.
Yeah,
that's a lot. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, no, 100 kilograms of weight reduction. How they do that is lots of carbon fiber, composite materials. So we can see the rear. We've got a carbon wing. We've got carbon diffuser, carbon fender flares, even the wheels. So the wheels are now, center lock. So there's only the one nut in the middle. So that's, I guess, lightens it a bit. Very hardcore track prep stuff. Carbon front active splitter. Lots of carbon inside. Really cool seats, bucket seats. I don't know how else they squeeze out up 100 kilograms. Maybe that's with the GTA M model because the back seat is deleted on that model. Also have a titanium Akrapovic. Everyone argues about how to pronounce that.
Akrapovic.
Some people say Akrapovic, and I'm like, I don't know. I cannot correct or confirm any pronunciation of that, but it's a super popular exhaust, titanium. And center exit, it looks really sweet. And it's only two tips, which nowadays seems like, oh, that's really few exhaust tips to have, but it looks so good on this car.
There's rifling inside.
Yeah, it looks sweet. Like it's like supercar level stuff. And keep in mind, the base Giulia is, like a $40,000 sedan. Like it's just, and this just looks wild. Really exciting car. They have kind of a unique experience package that comes with these cars. So that's going to include a custom car cover and a bell. I think it's a carbon helmet. And then the GTA M models are going to get a whole racing suit from Alpine Stars. So the GTA M model, which we have pictured right there, is going to get the rear wing and the spoiler that can extend. Yeah, the front spoiler can move for track stuff, so it can move up to 40 millimeters, so almost 2 inches. The rear seat delete, the half cage, and then there's going to be the fire extinguisher right down the middle of where the center seat used to be, and there's going to be a little helmet holder as well. So when you're going to the track day, you have somewhere to secure your helmet. Pretty hardcore stuff. Oh, and polycarbonate side and rear windows. So that's a lot of weight savings right there. I guess not quite as durable polycarbonate, maybe, but definitely lighter than traditional glass. So super hardcore with this model here. GTA M. Really cool front bumper too. I mean, you got a lot more ducting going on the front end of this car.
Even around the crest.
Yeah, but it still keeps that Giulia look, which I like. It's it's one of the prettiest, probably is the prettiest sedan in this
It is an
size.
absolutely beautiful sedan. Yes.
Yeah, in this size, and it's also wider than the normal Quadrifoglio.
Mm.
About 1 inch in the front overall, and about 2 inches in the back overall. So they've had to rework the suspension to
can definitely see the fender being pushed out on the front here, but the rear, I think that's all just on flare. I think the body work is the same.
Yeah, so supposedly, you can't normally just push a car out 2 inches, especially one that's already quite aggressive. So they've had to rework the suspension. What they've done is they've made it camber in more, essentially. So you still have okay clearance, and it's redesigned. And power wise, it's up a little bit from the Quadrifoglio, which is 510. This one's at 540. Lots of power. 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. So definitely supercar level performance. And it's just really special, I think. Like 500, only 500 of them, which is quite exclusive these days. Anything else you want to add? The wing. Kind of reminds me of that XFRS a few years back.
Yeah.
Also a little bit JDM tuner-ish, but
kind of, yeah. It looks the car looks straight from Need for Speed Underground. Not Underground, sorry. Like maybe one of the later ones. I don't know what the later Need for Speeds are, but like it kind of looks like that, especially with the carbon fenders, a carbon wing. It just looks very aftermarket. I don't mind it, but it looks very aftermarket, and something I like that. I think Giulia here, like Giulia is one of the prettiest sedans. It's like looking at this, yes, it still has massive grills on the front, but it looks a whole lot better than like the M3 or the M4. But I mean, the M3 and M4 is a lot less than this, but this is going to be a whole lot more rare. So, take it for as you will.
Yeah, it's going to be special, but I don't see it outperforming an M3 competition by that much. And if it's going to cost almost twice as much, practically speaking, you do buy the BMW. Reliability wise, build quality wise, long-term ownership wise, the BMW is probably a more sensible choice as well. But you don't buy an Alfa to be sensible. So it's all good,
I think it's an amazing. Okay, so I haven't driven the Giulia Quadrifoglio. I've driven the regular Giulia, which was really bland, and I was like, it's kind of whatever. But I've driven the Stelvio Quadrifoglio, and it's the same engine. Holy, that soundtrack from that 2.9 V6, amazing. I mean, it is technically a Ferrari engine with 2 cylinders lobbed off, but just the soundtrack, it was
super cool.
Like I never used so much gas.
This is going to be one of those things that's like, it's really going to be the last of its breed. I don't think we're going to see too many pure gasoline powered, just hot rod sedans, track special.
Yeah.
You're just not going to see it anymore. I mean, the M3 is still one of those last of kind of things compared to the C63, which is going hybrid and turbo 4-cylinder, so small engine. Just because of emission stuff, I think you're not going to see this anymore, because the next generation Giulia, whatever that may be, if they make it, is going to have to comply with 2025, 2030 rules for emissions, which I don't think this is going to work.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. The blurb does mention it's the GT-M that loses 100 kilograms. So the windows, the seats, like it all makes sense with that. Yeah. Absolutely. Anything else you want to mention about the Giulia before we move on?
Nope. I've never driven one. I've only sat in them. But it's one of those cars you just lust after.
Yeah.
But you'd never buy.
So I have a friend that purchased a Giulia Quadrifoglio, He had it for a total, I think, of 3 or 4 months. In that duration, 50% of the time was spent at the shop. I mean,
Sounds about right.
It's
Again,
sad.
And you know what? This car makes more sense than the regular Giulia because you know what? It's a 2-seater. It's not meant to replace your daily commuter vehicle.
No.
So the 175,000 euro special model, it's a collector piece. It's a track piece. It's a toy. I think that is where Alpha sweet spot is. The normal base model, it's kind of depressing, right? Like,
yeah,
why would you get that over any of its competitors?
You wouldn't.
But this is special.
Lease rate is really good.
It was. I don't know if it still is. I remember when this first came out, I think maybe back in 2018, it was dirt cheap to lease one of these.
It was really cheap. It was an annual, like 1-year lease, short term, but it was really, really cheap. Anyways, let's move on here. Well, let's talk about the Genesis. So Genesis, last few weeks we talked about like the G80 EV, we talked about the GV80 as well as the standard G80, but this is the brand new G70, which is their small sedan, but they released a brand new version, a shooting brake. So a wagon, essentially. This looks pretty good in my eyes. I don't mind it. I definitely don't, because I've always been a big fan of wagons, but I think they could have done a little bit more on it.
Yeah, and I mean, wagons are always one of those cars that, like, as a car enthusiast, you have to love. And I mean, I've had a history of hatchbacks and wagons. I sought after getting an STI wagon. I had no interest in a sedan whatsoever. And supposedly all car enthusiasts in North America, you have to worship the wagon. But I think the shooting brake on this application just doesn't look the part for me.
No.
Like, it just doesn't look quite as premium. Like, it just looks more generic, I want to say, than the sedan. The sedan has its own special lines and charisma to the look that I think this doesn't have. Now they've changed the shooting brake's front end a little bit, from what I remember. The grille is positioned a little bit lower and further forward, supposedly, at least, and that just gives it a more forward-moving look to it. So it's a little bit more sporty. The front end, I think, looks good because that's carryover from the G70.
That's just your regular G70, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the back is like, it's a little bit pieced together for me, and the way, the face on the back, it reminds me of a certain Pokemon. I don't know what its name is. What is that Pokemon called? Starts with an M.
I'm gonna let you figure out what a Pokemon you're thinking about here, but it is, of course, increase of space. So there's about 40% more luggage space. But here's the thing: the G70 shooting brake is going to come out only in Europe and maybe some other parts of the world as well. But it's definitely not coming here to North America. We don't buy wagons. North Americans love SUVs, and that's all we're going to get into. And there's the GV70. GV70 is going to be a great SUV with probably a little bit more practicality than the G70 shooting brake, just because of the overall design of the vehicle. It's going to sit higher. It's going to handle maybe a little worse because, it's a little taller, but it's going to have the same engine, drivetrains, and all that good stuff. So if you're really lusting after the G70 shooting brake, GV70 shouldn't be far off from that.
I mean, I'll tell you why car enthusiasts are so anti SUV and pro wagon is because of Top Gear UK, when Jeremy Clarkson and the gang, they were crapping on crossovers because they're less efficient, they handle worse, and whatnot. And we've talked about it in podcasts before, but I don't think the GV70 is going to use much more fuel than this. I think it's going to be more practical than this. I think it makes sense. Like you're not doing limit handling where you can feel the difference between a G70 shooting brake and a GV70 with this type of vehicle. And the GV70's proportions are pretty good, and it's special, right? It's
GV70 is
got
bang
character.
on. The proportions.
It's bang on, and it's got stuff going on that does kind of differentiate it. Like there's a brand image there. There is you know, muscle to it. There is I think, yeah, you were seriously considering this vehicle, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the GV70, like, I don't get me wrong, I love the wagon, but I think, overall as a package for consumers, GV70 is gonna win hands down. It's just gonna be a better car overall.
Yeah.
Well, let's move on from that to another SUV, the Volkswagen Tiguan. The Tiguan in the other parts of the world comes in a regular version, a regular Tiguan, as well as an all space. That's actually kind of new. But the all space is basically the regular Tiguan here, because here in North America, we like bigger SUVs. So the all space is the longer version with ability to have that third row, which is exactly what we get. So it's been updated.
Yeah, I mean the update brings that's the transition for us here in North America. That is the phasing out of the Mark 7 Golf and the replacement of this model here, which is our Tiguan, which we've already had, but this is the bestseller, right? This is the volume leader. And interestingly enough, this is, I think, the first generation Tiguan versus the Mark 6 Golf at the time. That was the comparison that Top Gear made. They're like, this is junk, and the Golf can do everything the Tiguan can do. Definitely can't hold 3 rows, but okay. But yeah, I mean, the Mark 8 Golf is not coming to North America. It is coming in the GTI and the Golf R, but the standard Golf, I believe, is just not. It's gone.
Yeah. So in this place, we're getting the Taos, I believe it's pronounced, which is just a 2-row Volkswagen SUV that looks like a smaller Tiguan.
Yeah, and I think this, this car is important for that reason. It is just how the market has evolved. Like let's not confuse that with anything else. This is an evolution that people's needs are changing. They're finding that they prefer this taller vehicle. They prefer a little bit extra room and a little bit extra ground clearance over the Golf. And I have no qualms about the Golf leaving. I've had a Golf GTI before. I've had Golfs in the family as well, but yeah, no, this little crossover, it's been a pretty good car, and they're super popular.
It is solid, but there's one fundamental flaw with the Tiguan. In my books, anyways, it may not be for everyone. It's the power. So, like, yes, it's a 2-liter turbo, which is better than like the Rogue's 2.5-liter naturally aspirated 4, or the same engine that's in the Outlander. But 184 horsepower and 221 pound-feet of torque just isn't enough to hold us around, because this weighs, let me see if I can find it here. It's 3,700 pounds. It's not light, especially like if you have 2 rows
when you fully load it. Then,
yeah. When you have it loaded, it's not light for 184 horsepower.
Yeah, it's not a particularly fast car, but I think it is you can get the EA 888 engine in this, right? And so you can tune that to your heart's content.
Oh, I already looked at it. Only one. It was a vehicle. I was like, maybe I can take a look at a Tiguan. There's only one tune available from APR. mix, I think 220 or 230 horsepower, almost 300 pound-feet of torque. But that's the
which
only.
is that's all you need.
It's okay.
And APR is well established. So if you find power is a concern with the Tiguan, which I think you don't. It's not really. I mean, you compare the Rogue is really popular. The base Forester is like horrendously slow.
It's definitely not a problem for most people.
I
It's
think
just
it's
that
enough.
I think I was just looking for a little bit more power. That's what it came down to.
Yeah, well, and especially with all this R design stuff, it does look pretty sporty. So it doesn't have the grunt to live up to that, I guess.
That's what it is, really, because it looks like a Golf R, kind of, but it doesn't perform like one.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you want fast, then what you get the CX5 Turbo?
Yeah, CX5 Turbo would probably be the king of that segment, anyways.
For power, but it's not going to be as practical as this boxy little Volkswagen.
Definitely not. The Tiguan is huge, has a huge trunk area, and the CX5 it's cramped even in the second row.
I quite like their displays too on the.
Volkswagen makes amazing displays.
Yeah, the digital cockpit, so 8-inch version to standard and up to 10-inch.
The only thing I would say is they're moving on to this whole touch sensitive thing. It's not just the infotainment, but on the steering wheel, that's all digital and touch display or touch buttons. Same thing with the climate control. So like
the swipey swipe.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Just from looks of it, I'm not a big fan, but have to try it out and in practice to see. But
yeah, I don't. This is this interior is a little bit not as pretty as the Mark 8 Golfs, though, I will say.
No, because it's still based on Mark 7 tech.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit older.
Yeah.
It is just a facelift at the end of the day. And I think it's still, it has a timeless quality to it. Volkswagen interiors always have this.
Absolutely.
That it kind of goes unnoticed because in its time, it does not seem that modern. And then, 2 years ago, I was driving a 95 VR6 Jetta, and I'm like, the switchgear in here still looks pretty contemporary. Like the fonts they use and just the way everything, reaches. It's quite modern for a 25-year-old vehicle. Yeah. And I think there's something to be said about Volkswagen interiors that
they just age well.
They do.
Like, when you don't go beyond what other people are doing, it's not like Hyundai with especially that new Tucson.
Yeah,
that's going to look dated in 10 years, whereas something that looks kind of bland now, still going to look bland later, but it looks normal.
Yeah, it'll look handsome. It won't look too out of place. Like a Mark 5. Mark 5's been around for 15 plus years if you're counting in Europe, and I think that interior still looks great. Decent materials. The Mark IV looked good too, but they all smelled like crayons because they all molded. So you can get past, the look is good, but the smell is not so good.
I had a Mark IV. It was okay.
Probably too new to have that much mold in it at the time.
Let's talk about another update from Mazda. So Mazda Canada, here in Canada, we're a little slower. And horrible photo for me to pull up. This is the only photo that matters. So in Canada, our CX5 and CX9s for 2021 did not get the new infotainment update. It's only the 2021.5. So mid-year cycle kind of refresh, and we get the new infotainment. That's the same one now in the US. So you get the wide 10.25-inch screen. It has the newer Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And I mean, that's really the only thing. It is just a minor update.
So it's the one we found on the Mazda 3.
It's the exact same one that you have in the Mazda 3 as well as the CX-30. It's going to be faster to use overall,
Mhm.
but they took away two things. One is wireless CarPlay, and two is the touchscreen. Touchscreen, I don't mind. I don't ever use the touchscreen on the Mazda vehicles because you can only use it while stationary. But wireless CarPlay,
It must be to do with the bugginess of the software. I think it's troubleshooting for the dealers that kind of gets nowhere. And I think, as far as the customer experience, after sales experience at least, and take it from someone who sells aftermarket stereos as well, the offering less features means less issues down the road. And I can see that, because wireless Android has been horrendous for us. We've been selling head units that have been capable of wireless Android for the last 3 years, but certain phones work, certain phones don't work. Wireless CarPlay has been more stable, a lot more stable than wireless Android, but it's still not perfect. And we still have customers from time to time. And it could be something as simple as you just turn your phone off and on and it works again, or you forget it and you plug it in to the USB again, and then after that it works again, or it's just because you updated your software. But it's just a call to the dealer that I can see them wanting to avoid. I still don't really like how Mazda does these 0.5 updates, like 2021.5. They're the only ones that do it, and it just confuses the heck out of people. It makes used car buying a pain. It makes sourcing parts a pain. It's one of those ways that you're like, okay, this is a smaller, quirky company. They're not as worried about serviceability as some other companies, because sometimes even with a VIN you're confused what this car needs exactly. And I came across that issue with the CX5. I ordered a dash kit for a 2016 and the car was a 2016.5.
2016.5.
Total shape is it's similar, but it's different enough that it's not acceptable to use a 2016 part. And I had that issue with the CX5. And also, I want to mention that the theme that they use does remind me of the little Microsoft MP3 player back in the day, the Zune.
Oh, the Zune, the best MP3 player ever.
I don't know if we can get a close up, maybe from Mazda 3 or something, but the black background with the very simple white text and the way it scrolls, it does remind me of the Zune a little bit.
So I really like the new Mazda infotainment because it is simple. A lot of manufacturers these days have a lot within their infotainment systems. It just gets there's a million complicated menus in there. Mazda keeps it simple, which to me I like.
I mean, my ND has the older generation, the predecessor to this system. It is quite easy to use. It is a little bit quirky. The Bluetooth drops a lot. Sometimes I start and it just doesn't pair to my phone. But overall, it's pretty easy to use. That and the BMW system, really good.
BMW system, I must admit, is good. Seems curiously is very similar to the one that's in my current driver, my Supra. Don't know why.
Not sure. Toyotas never have good infotainment, though.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Slightly different, this Toyota.
Speaking of Toyota, that isn't really a Toyota.
Great segue.
The brand new Subaru Sunearth. Oh wait, Solterra.
So the Solterra is the global platform that is combined with Toyota. It's built on what Subaru calls the Subaru Global Platform, which is the TNGA.
How did they come up with that name?
I don't know. But it's basically the TNGA platform from Toyota. So its base of it's very similar to the RAV4, as well as that B4
Z4
KD vehicle.
I remember because it's the BMW Z4 Xdrive That's not made by BMW, so it's a BZ4X.
The only way to remember it.
So it's like that company that makes the Supra. How the Supra is a BMW Z4. Well, this is the crossover that's a similar length, so that's the BZ4X. So great mnemonic device there.
The only way for Dustin to remember a vehicle's name, the most complicated way to remember the stupid name for a car.
Hey, my name is Alice and I live in Alaska.
So the Solterra is going to be this Subaru version of the BZ4X. You know what? There's no pictures on it. The only thing that's available is this right here. It's a super dark photo. All you see is headlights.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is it's probably going to look exactly like the Toyota version, except it has a Subaru badge in front of it. It's going to have the Subaru grille rather than the Toyota grille. And inside, it's going to have the Subaru badge on the steering wheel versus the Toyota badge. Mm-hmm. The Subaru version will probably be a little bit more luxurious. So I'm thinking like BRZ and 86 combo. The BRZ is always a little bit more. So like the BRZ, you get like the smart key, whereas do you get the smart key with the new 86? I don't know, but I know like the older 86s, you have like a key, or FRS, I should say. You have a key that you need to like actually shove it in and start it.
Yeah. At least with a 2017 86, I know you don't have a smart key. The new one, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's really all we can say about it.
Yeah. Well, we talked about the BZ4X a few weeks ago, and the big thing there was that Toyota's bragging about how they have a Subaru derived all-wheel drive system. So again, we don't know what that means because it's an EV.
It's an electric.
So it's all
symmetrical
software.
Batteries.
Symmetrical battery motor lengths, I guess. But yeah, we'll know more when this car comes out, which is soon, actually, middle of 2022. So that's we're gonna start seeing more official reviews and pictures probably in a few months, probably end of this year.
And then there's this. Because of the cyber attack on the Colonial Pipeline, which supplies 45% of the East Coast gasoline, people are literally stockpiling fuel. And I was on Reddit today, and I was going to pull it up, but Reddit has a lot of bad ads, so I'm on Car and Driver's website rather than that, just a little safer. There's literally people putting gasoline in garbage bags. It's come on, people, that is just not safe.
Imagine getting rear-ended with that much gasoline just in plastic bags. Like that is an insane fire waiting to happen.
It's
Michael Bay level stuff. Yeah, lots of jerry cans, lots of hoarding, and that's kind of how it's been with this since the start of this pandemic, right?
Yeah, like, well, I mean, people hoarding toilet paper,
and now it's
gasoline.
Fuel. Yeah. Meanwhile, everyone who's running electric vehicles, which probably not as many on the East Coast, to be honest, those people are laughing.
Well, I mean, if they can't buy a generator to charge their their vehicle,
watch people put diesel in their gasoline.
Ooh. There's still fuel, right?
Yeah. Any fuel.
Yeah, I mean,
any fuel in a storm.
This is, of course, PSA. Don't put gasoline in garbage bags. Mm-hmm. Use proper containers. Be safe. Yes, there may be a shortage. Hoarding probably may help. I don't know. Here in the West Coast of Canada, we don't really have problems like that. We're fortunate enough that, generally speaking, nothing really goes completely out of stock. I mean, we did run out of toilet paper for a while, but that was like a month.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of storage, like this is not safe. And if you're putting this inside your house, that's a huge risk as well. Just don't.
Or leave it in your car. It's also a bad idea.
Yeah, the heat. We're in summer now, and I don't know if you've ever had a jerry can, but the way they kind of inflate in the heat, I don't know what you call it, and you open the cap and like that. That in a vented jerry can is one thing, but in random plastic garbage bags, like, no.
Well, just make sure you're using Glad. I heard they're the strongest garbage bags.
I've seen that ad.
And then we move on to the last thing here, which is the review of the week. Just the past Monday here, I posted the 2021 BMW X5 Xdrive45e, which is the plug-in hybrid version of the X5. About 50 kilometers of electrical range, so not like a ton, but it's good enough for some people with a shorter commute.
Some people, and I think that some is like 80% of people, right? And especially in urban areas, 50 is a lot. And I think with this type of car, it makes a lot of sense because you have to compare apples to apples. Like if you buy the alternative to buying this $100,000 luxury SUV is buying one that has a V8 in it or a turbo V6 or turbo inline six, and the amount of fuel difference there is huge. I think that's where this type of vehicle makes a lot of sense. You got to compare this to Range Rover Sport, something like that. And whereas if you look at like a RAV4 hybrid, like that's an expensive upgrade from the base RAV4, obviously. I guess when you factor in incentives, depending on where you are, then that varies a little bit. But at that price point, you're not seeing as big of a jump in terms of fuel because you're using regular gas and you're probably getting sub 10 liters per 100 K. Whereas this, you're comparing to vehicles that use premium and closer to 20 liters per 100 K in the real world for urban driving. So I think the plug-in, surprisingly makes sense to be.
It does. Like it's not a lot more money over the Xdrive40i, which is like the non-electric version of this. And with the 50 kilometer electrical range, like it does help. Like you plug in overnight, it charges to full, as long as you got a 240 charger. Because if you use full 50 kilometers on 110, you will not charge it to full from night to morning. But like if you got a 240 charger, you rarely use any fuel. And for the week that I had it, I even actually drove out to Langley. Langley from my home is about, I would say, there and back about 100 kilometers or so, roughly. And I used that week about $6 worth of gas, I think.
Compared to the week that you had the X5M and you're worried about getting a VI and
X5M was very expensive.
Yeah. That's what you have to compare it to, right? Apples to apples. You can't be comparing this to a RAV4 Prime.
Definitely not.
Something in that segment. Because the X5, great interior. I really like it. Good size. Looks great. And I think it's like just about as big of a car I would live with in the city. I don't want anything bigger than that. I think the X7 is too big, and I think the body on frame 3-row SUVs are way too big. But I like the size of the X5 now. The X5 ironically seems like the only one that hasn't gone like completely overweight. Like if you compare the original X3 to the one that we get now, it feels a lot bigger. The X5 has not grown that much to me.
Yeah, no, I would agree.
Yeah,
I would definitely agree. Because BMW, I think they're like, hey, you know what? If someone does, really actually want something bigger, we have the 7. With the 3, they moved it up a size to fit the 1 and the 2.
Yeah, and the 1 is still like the 1 is actually reasonably practical.
Yeah. It's just a matter of time before an X0 comes along.
Yeah, they'll have to keep making smaller numbers than 1 apparently.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
Yeah, but no, this thing looks the part, and I think to most people you couldn't tell that this is any different from a regular X5. Which
Not at
is
all.
that a good thing, or I don't know.
It
Depends how you
depends
look at
on
it.
which side of the fence you're on, right? If you're the
Yeah.
side of the fence that, like, I'm a Prius driver and I have bumper stickers on the back that says I hug trees,
Then you
no,
would have bought a Tesla something. Yeah.
but like, especially with this M performance package on it, it looks amazing. It looks great. I love the big wheels it has on it. It's a fantastic looking machine, and the only way to tell that it's a plug-in hybrid is a flap on the front fender and the little E on the back.
Yeah, I like how subtle it is. I think it's not all smug. It's just like someone being not necessarily smart with money, because you're buying $100,000 SUV, right?
Oh,
It's going to
no.
depreciate. It's going to cost money to maintain. The brakes are expensive. The probably 315 rear tires are going to be
Hotter than
expensive
that.
to replace 325 rear tires. So like those are $600 at least per tire. So financially it's a luxury vehicle, so it doesn't need to make perfect financial sense, but it does make a little bit more sense than your standard issue 40i or 50i. Do they still make a 50i?
They still do, yeah.
Yeah, no, great stuff. I love this car.
Yeah.
How did yeah breaking news. Breaking news. Well, not breaking. It happened a few hours ago, but Elon Musk, speaking of Tesla and electric cars, I don't know if you have this story at all or if you talk about it, but Tesla officially is not accepting Bitcoin anymore, at least for now.
Yeah.
Elon Musk just tweeted about 5 hours before we recorded this podcast, 7 hours. Long story short, Bitcoin, obviously the mining that goes along with Bitcoin, terrible for the environment. I don't know why Elon Musk is realizing this now, because we've known since day one basically that you're able to heat a house with how much a mining rig heat like generates in terms of heat. And so the electricity consumption is insane. So yeah, for a lot of parts of the world, suddenly Elon Musk has decided that, you know what, that's not ethical, and so we got to look for more sustainable ways, which makes a lot of sense, but it's just weird that he's realizing this now.
I'm just waiting for him to be like, hey, we're gonna accept Dogecoin now.
I think that is probably his next move, which it's got the same it's probably got the same caveats behind it, the externalities as they would call it in economics, the external costs of mining. So I mean, stuff with electricity and efficiency and ecology is not so cut and dry. Like, you could easily point at this X5 and be like, this car makes no sense, because in many ways you're like 50 kilometers of range for how much? Come on, like you buy a Model Y that costs twice as much as this. No, not a Model Y, a Model X, and the interior is nowhere near this quality, right? The refinement, everything that goes behind the X5 name, and I mean the X5 is not the only one in this segment, right? We've got Range Rovers that kind of works, but again, it's one of those cars like we talked about with the Alfa earlier. It spends most of its time in the shop.
Unfortunately, these are facts.
Yeah, at least the BMW one works, and until it does go in the shop, it is going to be expensive, but it works until that point. I'm not here to brag about BMW being reliable or anything like that. It's just more reliable than an Alfa or a
it's okay. That is definitely something to note. Because in general sense, there are definitely manufacturers that's more reliable. But I like how you spoke about the Range Rover, because I was like, oh, I recall the Range Rover actually has a plug-in hybrid variant. Yeah. So the Range Rover full size non-sport which I guess is not that comparable because the X5 is kind of compared to a Sport. Anyways, the full-size Range Rover, you can get a 2-liter 4-cylinder plug-in hybrid. That makes 296 horsepower total. That's 116,000 to start. So that is a little bit more there.
Yeah, and then there's the Cayenne. The Cayenne's technically, quote unquote, starts at 93,800, but you cannot get a Porsche with less than 20K of options. So again, that is a little bit different, and it's a faster car though.
Yeah, and
I don't know how that electrical system
for
works.
a lot of people, they put the Cayenne, like Porsche brand itself, I should say, above BMW or above BMW. So there's that as well.
Yeah.
Looks
44 kilometers of range on the Cayenne.
Looks like you cannot get a Range Rover Sport with plug-in hybrid
anymore. Oh, weird. My friend has one. But not reliable.
2021, you only get, there's 4 engine options. 2 of them are 3-liter inline 6s, and 2 of them are 5-liter V8s. Yeah. So it looks like if you want a PHEV Range Rover,
you need to get the full size.
Full size only. Nice. Yeah. I think I looked this up before, but I'm pretty sure the X5 is the longest range plug-in hybrid that you can get for a vehicle of that kind of nature. Yeah. Oh, look, it's us.
Wait, no, I see LandRover.ca. We have the 2021 P400e Range Rover Sport starting at 103. 103.
Why can't I see it? I'm on Land Rover's website as well.
I don't know what I clicked. I just typed in Range Rover PHEV, and that's what I got. So HSE starts at 100. Autobiography starts at 102, which is
oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
But again, that's a more luxury brand.
Yeah, and that's
the funny thing is I meet people that work at these dealerships, and the way you explain it to your customers, like, if you wanted reliability, you would have bought a Corolla. Like, you bought a Range Rover, right? Like, you got to put it that way.
Because one of our friends used to work there, and he works with you now. I remember he was saying, like, he really didn't like working there because of the attitude that people come in. Because he was telling me, I remember he was telling me, is like, he just did not like dealing with those people that come in, like, you know, saying, oh, I have a $100,000 Range Rover, this should be always working.
Yeah, it's quite the opposite, really. This is a high maintenance vehicle. You have to realize 51 kilometers of range on the Range Rover, so very similar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but Range Rover Sport, it's old now, right? So even though they've updated that infotainment system, which doesn't work that well in your experience.
I've had bad luck with Range Rover.
I remember when we went down to Seattle that time. We went to Seattle that time with the Velar.
Yeah.
And yeah, it had we're like, the fancy new all touchscreen infotainment.
The Velar had a lot of minor problems, but I kind of understand why. I kind of understand why the Velar had so many problems, because James May was in that car before, and he was filming Grand Tour with it, so kind of makes sense why that Velar had issues, considering how hard they drove that vehicle in that episode of the Grand Tour.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the Range Rover range is starting to look a little bit dated to me. This X5, I love this generation X5. Like, I think it just looks, visually it looks smaller, and then interior wise, it's just way nicer than before. Like, I think this generation, they're like, okay, we really have to step it up now. Everyone else is beating us in terms of interior. We can't just recycle a 3 and 5 series interior, which where credit's due. The 3 and 5 have now come up as well to this level. So, big upgrades in terms of interior for BMW. Always been decent to drive these cars. Not, you know, not the full M, but
It's
still.
quite heavy with the battery, so you do feel that extra weight, but you still get like the traditional BMW driving experience. How it feels like, just the weight within the steering itself dynamically. When you give it some throttle, the back end actually rotates. Like it's all the features of a BMW that you come to expect.
Yeah, I think if you're, and that's one of the things too, is if you get this as a replacement for your say 2015 previous generation X5 50i, and you're like, okay, I want to get into a new one, similar power but a lot more efficiency, a lot nicer interior, and similar price point, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's about it for this week. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we say goodbye?
Nope, that was everything with the Elon Musk story, I think. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for watching. If you're on YouTube, and listening in if you're on our podcast, we'll catch you same time, same place next week, and we'll talk more about car news then. Thanks, everyone.
Bye for now.
Take care.